I always believed that love was supposed to feel warm, like sunlight on your skin in the middle of winter.
Safe. Steady.
But now, looking back, I realized that what I thought was warmth was just a flickering flame, one that was always about to die. My name is Aaliyah. I'm 30, a freelance graphic designer based in Chicago. My world was small but comfortable. Home was a two-bedroom apartment I decorated with books, candles, and hand-painted canvases. It smelled like lavender and coffee most days. My boyfriend, or rather, ex, Aaron, lived with me for almost 3 years. He was charming, a little flashy, and incredibly ambitious. The type of man who could turn heads in a room but always made me feel like I was the only one who mattered. Or so I thought. It started subtly, as these things always do. We were sitting on the couch one Friday night. I was curled up next to him, half watching a documentary while scrolling through font libraries for a client. Aaron had just returned from some finance mixer at a hotel downtown. He smelled like expensive cologne and a hint of wine. Not unusual. But there was a look in his eyes, something distant, even though I was right there. "How was the event?" I asked. He shrugged. "The usual. Networking. Boring." But I noticed he kept checking his phone, subtly at first. A flicker of the screen here, a glance there. I caught a quick smile once, and when I asked what was funny, he said, "Oh, nothing. Just a meme from Jake." Something in his voice didn't match the smile. I didn't think much of it. Everyone has private jokes with their friends, right? But still, the seed had been planted. Something felt off. Not wrong, not yet, just misaligned. The next day, I found a pair of gold hoop earrings on our dresser. They weren't mine. At first, I thought they were a client's. Maybe I had absent-mindedly picked them up after a shoot. But I couldn't remember when. I asked Aaron, half laughing, "Did your mom leave these here?" He looked up from his laptop and blinked. "What earrings?" I held them up. Thin, delicate, clearly not from Target. "These." A beat of silence. Then, probably for my sister. She stopped by last week, remember? But I didn't remember. His sister lived in Seattle, and she hadn't visited in almost a year. Still, I nodded slowly and placed the earrings in the drawer. Maybe I had forgotten. Maybe they were hers. Maybe. That night, as I lay in bed with him breathing softly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, heart drumming a quiet rhythm of unease. I didn't want to be that girl, the paranoid one. The one who snoops through phones and second-guesses every smile. But something inside me whispered that the foundation of our relationship was starting to crack. We were supposed to have dinner with his mother that Sunday, but he canceled last minute. "She's not feeling well," he said, avoiding eye contact as he slipped on his leather jacket. "I'll just go check on her myself. You want me to come?" He hesitated. Just for a second. But enough.
No, baby.
"You rest. You've been overworked." He kissed me on the forehead before heading out. I stood by the window, watching him disappear into the evening. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. But I couldn't shake the chill that crawled up my spine. That night, I found the earrings again. I had placed them in the top drawer. Now they were on the bathroom sink, unmistakably placed, as if someone had used them. Aaron was still out. I stared at the delicate hoops like they were evidence in a crime scene. My skin prickled. Maybe I had moved them without realizing. Maybe I was spiraling. Maybe. I tried to sleep, but my thoughts kept looping like a broken film reel. The unanswered questions, the hollow reassurances, the way he had started locking his phone with a passcode he never used before. At 3:12 a.m., I sat up in bed and whispered to the silence, "What are you hiding, Aaron?" Of course, there was no answer. Just the low hum of the fridge and the silence of a space that no longer felt entirely mine. By morning, he was back, cheery, affectionate, the way he always was when he felt guilty. He brought me coffee and my favorite croissants. "I missed you," he said, brushing hair from my forehead. I smiled and nodded, but I couldn't unsee the faint lipstick stain on his collar. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself that I was just tired. Overworked. Imagining things. Relationships have their ups and downs, And maybe Aaron was just going through a rough patch at work. Maybe the lipstick was from a colleague. Maybe the earrings were old. Maybe the way he touched me had changed only because I was pulling away first. But those maybes couldn't hold back the storm that was building inside me. I started noticing more things. Tiny inconsistencies. Things that would seem harmless on their own, but when stitched together, formed a fabric of quiet deceit. Like the night he said he was working late, but his Uber receipt, accidentally emailed to our shared inbox, showed a drop-off address in Lincoln Park. Not near his office. Nowhere near. Or the time he said he forgot his wallet but paid the bar tab with a platinum card I'd never seen before. I didn't say anything at first. I was gathering information, not starting a war. But every new clue left a bruise on my trust. I began watching him closely. He had started wearing new cologne, deeper, muskier. He said it was a gift from a colleague, but when I Googled the brand, it turned out to be from a luxury boutique. $280 a bottle. Not Aaron style. He hated spending money like that. Unless, of course, he was trying to impress someone else. One evening, I got home early from a canceled client shoot. As I turned my key in the lock, I could hear music playing soft jazz, something romantic.
Odd.
Aaron never played music like that unless we were together. When I opened the door, he was on a video call. He jumped, visibly startled, and quickly slammed his laptop shut. "Hey, you're home early," he said too brightly. My eyes flicked to the screen, still faintly glowing. "Who were you talking to?" He stood, casually stretching like nothing was wrong. "Just Jake. Catching up. Jake hates jazz." He laughed nervously. "Yeah, well, I put it on for ambience." I stared at him. He smiled. "I didn't. Are you hiding something?" The smile cracked just a little.
No.
Of course not. But I saw the flicker, that brief flicker of guilt in his eyes. It vanished almost instantly, replaced by the calm, calculated expression of someone who's learned how to lie without blinking. That night, I didn't sleep beside him. I stayed on the couch, heart aching, mind racing. I needed the distance to think. I began checking things more closely. His laundry, his schedule, even his tone when he spoke to me. It was always just a touch too sweet, a little too polished. Like he was trying too hard. Like he was covering up the smell of rot with perfume. Then came the phone call. He was in the shower, and his phone rang on the nightstand. The screen lit up. Isla Gemstone. I froze. I had never heard that name before. And the diamond emoji? I answered without thinking. A soft voice came through the line. "Hey babe, are we still on for tomorrow? I can't wait to see you again." I didn't speak. Just breathed. The silence caught her attention. "Hello? Aaron?" I hung up. My hands trembled as I placed the phone back down, carefully, as if not to wake a sleeping monster. I could hear the water still running in the bathroom. I stared at the closed door. My blood was pounding in my ears, but my thoughts were crystal clear. He was cheating. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't paranoid. There was someone else. And she called him babe. The rest of that night passed in a blur. I didn't confront him.
Not yet.
I needed more, not for him, but for me. I needed to understand what this was, who she was, how deep the betrayal went. I began researching. Her number traced back to an Instagram account, @Isla Monet. The profile was private, but her bio read, investor, world traveler, lover of rare things gemstone. Her profile picture showed a woman sipping champagne on a yacht. Long honey brown hair, high cheekbones, skin kissed by the sun. Her kind of beauty was expensive. She didn't look like someone Aaron would just casually know. She looked like someone Aaron would leave me for. And the worst part? He already had emotionally, if not physically. The next morning, I packed a small overnight bag and told him I was staying with my sister for a few days. He barely looked up from his phone when I said it. "Sure, babe. Let me know if you need anything." No questions. No hesitation. Not even a why.
He was relieved.
And that told me everything. As I left, I glanced back at him. There he was, the man who once promised me forever, now smiling at a screen I would never be part of again. I shut the door behind me and whispered, "You don't even realize what you've lost." But I wasn't heartbroken. Not yet. I was preparing. Because if Aaron thought he could replace me like a disposable coffee cup, he was about to learn that some things, some women, don't stay quiet when shattered. They rebuild. Sharper. Stronger. And they never forget. 2 days after I left, I came back to the apartment. Not because I missed him, but because I was ready. Ready to uncover the truth with my own eyes. No more guessing. No more silence. I knew his schedule well. He'd be at his so-called late meeting until 9 p.m., which I now assumed was code for meeting her. I timed my return precisely. The keys still worked. The place was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. Something in the air had shifted. The scent of that expensive perfume clung to the room. Too sweet, too strong. Like someone had tried to mask something. I walked straight into the bedroom. And there it was. Her necklace. Dangling from the corner of my vanity mirror, a thin gold chain with an eye charm. Not mine. I never wore gold. Aaron knew that. There were other signs. A silk scarf draped over the back of the chair. A champagne cork on the floor. The second wine glass on the nightstand. My chest tightened. This was our home. And now it reeked of her. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the necklace. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. My fingers curled around the charm, and I whispered to the empty room. Now I know. Still, I needed more. I opened Aaron's laptop. He never logged out. A chill crawled up my spine as I opened his messages. First the regular ones. Texts, emails. Then the folder labeled personal. Inside were messages with Isla. Dozens. Dinner tonight at La Lune? Can't wait to see you again, love. You make me feel alive. She never understood me like you do. My breath caught in my throat.
She.
That she was me. He had reduced me to a shadow, a ghost in his new love story. I clicked on the attachments. Photos. Videos. Isla and Aaron on the yacht. On the beach. In a luxury suite in Paris.
Paris.
He told me he'd gone there on business last month, and I'd believed him. One message stood out. She still thinks we're okay. I'm just waiting for the right moment to end things. Don't worry, she's not the type to make a scene. He thought I wouldn't make a scene? He didn't know me at all. Suddenly, I heard the key turn in the door. Panic surged through me. I closed the laptop, threw the necklace back on the vanity, and stepped into the hallway like nothing happened. Aaron walked in holding 2 grocery bags.
He froze when he saw me.
You're back. I nodded. Forgot a few things. He smiled, that same polished, practiced smile. How was your sister's? I studied him. Every lie he ever told now shimmered behind his eyes. Fine, I said. You know, restful. He nodded and headed to the kitchen. That's when I asked, so, who's Isla? He dropped the bag. A bottle of wine shattered on the floor. He turned slowly, face pale. Who? Don't insult me. His lips parted. No words came. Just silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I saw the necklace. I saw the messages. The pictures.
His jaw tightened.
You went through my stuff? I laughed.
Cold. Hollow.
That's what you're worried about. He didn't answer. Instead, he sat at the table, ran a hand through his hair, and said nothing. Say something? I demanded. Still nothing. The rage bubbled up. You brought her here, Aaron. To our bed. And you didn't even have the decency to hide it properly. He stood abruptly, chair screeching. I didn't mean for it to happen, he blurted. She was just different. She made me feel alive. You've been so cold, so distant lately. I cut him off. Don't you dare blame this on me. He clenched his fists. It wasn't supposed to get serious. But she's from a different world, Elena. She has connections. She's powerful. She could give you a better life? I snapped. Is that it? He didn't deny it. That hurt more than any lie. There it was, the truth in its ugliest form. He had chosen ambition over love. He saw her wealth, her sparkle, and traded me for it like an upgrade. She's not you, he said finally. No, I replied. She's not. We stared at each other across the room, two strangers who once loved each other so deeply that it felt eternal. And now, nothing but ash. I grabbed my bag and headed toward the door. He stepped forward. Wait, you can't just walk away. I turned to face him, calm but cold. I already did. The moment you invited her into our world, I was gone. You just didn't notice. As I walked out, he called after me. She's not who I thought she was. She's already started controlling everything. I paused. Oh, you mean you're not the one in control anymore? Silence. I smiled bitterly. Looks like you're the one begging now. Then I left, and this time I didn't look back. Because that was the moment I stopped being the broken one. That was the moment I realized I was free. I thought I was done. I thought walking away would be the end. But it never is it? 2 weeks passed in silence. Not a single call, not a message. It was like he vanished, as if he'd folded himself neatly into her world, trading his conscience for comfort. Then one rainy Thursday, just as I was closing the cafe I had started working at, trying to rebuild from scratch, he showed up. Soaked, trembling, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in days. Elena, he said, voice shaking. I need to talk. I didn't move. I stood behind the counter, arms crossed, watching him as if he were a ghost. I made a mistake. I gave a hollow laugh. You think? She's not what she seemed. I walked around the counter slowly, wiping my hands on a towel. Let me guess. Controlling? Cold? Possessive? He flinched. She has me on a schedule, he whispered. Everything's calculated. I can't breathe. I raised an eyebrow. And that's different for me, how? He looked down. Shame oozed off him. He was a shell now. A man unraveling from the inside out. She kicked me out of her penthouse last night, he admitted. Said I was starting to bore her. My lips parted slightly. So, let me understand. You left me, your partner, for someone who treats you like an accessory, and now that she's discarded you, you're crawling back. His voice cracked. I didn't know what I had. I was stupid. Please. I don't want to lose you. I stared at him. Really looked. He was broken. But not because he loved me.
No.
Because he'd lost. Because he'd gambled and lost everything. That realization hit harder than I expected. You didn't come back for me, Aaron, I said. You came back because she used you. Because she didn't see you as special the way I did. He blinked, stunned. I spent years believing in you, standing by you when no one else would. And the second someone shinier walked into the room, you tossed me aside like old furniture. I was scared, he murmured. You were always so strong, so self-sufficient. Isla made me feel needed. My jaw clenched. So, it's my fault again? Because I wasn't insecure enough to stroke your ego? He reached for me, but I stepped back. The distance between us was no longer just physical. You used to love me, he said desperately. Doesn't that count for something?
I did love you, I said. Deeply.
Fiercely. Enough to forgive flaws, mistakes, even distance. But love isn't a vending machine. You don't get to insert regret and expect affection back. He sank into one of the cafe chairs, rubbing his face. She said I was disposable, he whispered. And, you know what? Maybe I am. There it was again, that plea for sympathy, that aching desire to be saved. But I was done saving him. You are disposable, I said coldly.
To her.
To the world you tried so hard to be part of. Because you thought money and power would give you worth. His eyes flicked up to mine, glassy and full of regret. And to you. I paused. To me, I said softly, you were everything. Until you weren't. He sobbed once, a sharp, guttural sound that filled the empty cafe like a confession. I wake up every morning thinking about you, he said. I hear your voice in my head. I see your face in everything. I miss your laugh, your smell, your stubborn silence when you were mad. I can't breathe without it. I walked to the door and unlocked it. Rain poured outside. Then I hope someday, I said gently, you'll remember how easily you threw all that away. He stood, hesitant. This isn't goodbye, is it? I met his gaze, calm, composed. A storm behind my eyes he'd never see again. Yes, Aaron. It is. He walked past me, defeated, stepping into the rain without an umbrella. I stood there, watching him disappear into the downpour. No begging would change what he broke. No apology would erase what he chose. And just as I turned to lock the door again, something caught my eye on the floor.
His phone.
He must have dropped it when he sat down. I picked it up. Notifications were still lighting up the screen. Messages from Isla. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Isla. I want him out of my life. He's pathetic. Isla. I swear if he shows up again, I'll ruin him. Isla. Tell him to go crawling back to his little barista ex. She probably still pines for him. I stared at the screen. Then I deleted the messages and powered the phone off. No more poison. No more noise. Just silence. As I stood in the middle of my cafe, heart still aching but stronger than ever, I whispered to myself. He left me for a rich girl, but now he's the one begging. And I was finally done listening.
I didn't cry.
Not that night, not the next morning, not even when I found his old toothbrush still hidden behind the sink, like a ghost refusing to leave. Instead, I cleaned the cafe, opened early, and served every customer with a warmth I didn't fully feel, but something strange began happening. For the first time in years, I felt light, not happy.
Not yet.
But free. Aaron never came back for his phone. I placed it in a drawer and left it there, like an artifact of another life. One I had outgrown. People around me started noticing. Your aura's changed, a regular said one morning. You seem grounded. I smiled, thanked her and moved on. Because what could I say? That the man who promised me forever traded me for money and ended up with nothing? That the only closure I ever got came not from his apology, but from seeing him fall apart without me? Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, as I was closing early for inventory, a tall woman stepped inside the cafe. Blonde.
Sleek.
Dripping with wealth. I recognized her instantly. Isla. She wore her cruelty like perfume, subtle, expensive, sharp enough to sting the lungs. Elena? She asked, tilting her head. Her voice was perfectly pitched.
Polished.
Yes, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. I just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I raised an eyebrow.
Fuss.
She smiled, setting her designer bag on the counter. You see, I never understood why Aaron kept mentioning your name. Thought maybe you were some cloying ex he couldn't shake. But now I see, you're a foundation. One of those women men anchor their identity to. I said nothing. Let her speak. She thrived on reaction. He stopped trying to call me, by the way, she continued. I thought you might like to know. He's moved on to someone else entirely. A waitress, I think. A flicker of rage twisted in her smile. And yet, I said quietly, you're here. In my space. Her jaw clenched. She expected me to be bitter. To flinch. To beg for scraps of dignity. Instead, I wiped the counter and asked, coffee? Or just drama? She laughed, dry and sharp. You really are something. I am, I said. And the only difference between you and me is, I don't have to destroy people to feel powerful. She leaned in slightly. Careful, sweetheart. You don't know what I'm capable of. I met her eyes.
No.
But I know what I'm no longer afraid of. A beat of silence. Then unexpectedly she dropped her eyes. Picked up her purse. You win, she whispered. I didn't smile. Didn't move. I just watched her leave, heels echoing like punctuation marks on a chapter one was closing. That night, I finally sat with everything. I brewed tea. Lit the candles he once said gave him headaches.
Played the jazz he never liked.
And I opened his phone. Not for him. For me. I needed to know if he ever told the truth. I tapped into his saved notes. And there, tucked in a folder titled Regrets, I found an unsent message. Elena, I don't deserve your forgiveness. But you deserve to know, she didn't want me. She wanted to take you down. She saw your strength and hated it. I was just the weapon she used. I let her.
I'm sorry.
For everything. I stared at the screen. And I wept, not because I missed him, or because it hurt, but because I had almost let her succeed. Almost dimmed my own light trying to keep someone warm who would never do the same for me. I deleted the note. Powered the phone off for good. And that night, as I locked up and stood beneath the cafe's flickering neon sign, something stirred in the alley beside me. A shadow moved. I froze. Then a voice whispered from the darkness. You were never supposed to win. My blood turned to ice. I turned fast, but the alley was empty. Still. Only the wind answered back. I backed away, pulse racing, hands shaking. That voice, it wasn't Aaron's. Wasn't Isla's. It was someone else. Someone I hadn't seen.
Or someone who had seen me.
For weeks. Maybe months. I scanned the rooftops, the alley, the sidewalk. Nothing. But something told me. This wasn't over. Not really. Because when you survive betrayal, when you rise from it stronger, you make enemies you can't even see. And just as I reached the door of the cafe, I looked down at the window's reflection. Behind me, barely visible, a shape stood across the street. Watching. Waiting. Smiling.